Hello Booktube. In this video I'm going to be giving you my review of The Mission to Treaty Mesa by Abe Dancer, which was published in 2020. I read this as a part of June on the Range, which was a Booktube event created by Michael K. Vaughan, where we're encouraged to read all things westerns during the course of June. In The Mission to Treaty Mesa, an outlaw called Jackson Jack Games is given a chance at redemption. In exchange for pardon, he is to infiltrate the gang of a notorious outlaw called Preston Cooley and bring Cooley back to the authorities from his hideout in a mesa in southern Arizona, in the Badlands of southern Arizona. Over the course of the book, you see Games infiltrate the gang, get into Cooley's trust, and then you see him sort of the events that lead to the various actions he has to do to sort of get within trust and become a member of Cooley's gang before the sort of final climax. I'm not going to give you too many more spoilers because whilst this probably isn't very well known, it's unlikely that anybody outside the UK will ever get a chance to read this. But since it's so recently written, and it's also the first time I've read it, I don't want to spoil it for anybody. Overall, I enjoyed it. It's not any great. It's not a great story. It's very sort of a conventional western. I know I've seen plenty of western films where they've got a plot where you've got somebody sent undercover to infiltrate an outlaw gang, and then they have to get the gang leader, either kill them or capture them. One of the things that comes to mind is, though it isn't exactly infiltration, it's an outlaw who's is offered a pardon in exchange for going after the gang is the Wild Bunch, with the Robert Ryan character. In this, it's very much in the style of a sort of 1950s beat picture western. I don't say that as a criticism of it. I'm a big fan of those westerns. The characters are very much from central casting. When you read a sentence about them, you immediately know what they are, and you can slot them into place. As the book goes, the book itself is only about 160 pages. Most of the westerns, which are published by Black Horse, they're a pulp western publisher here in the UK. They actually went they actually closed down in 2020. I think this would have been one of the last books actually published. They'd actually been going since the mid 1930s, back when they were called Robert Hale. I think they became Black Horse in the 70s. Because this only has a page count of 160 odd pages, the story moves quite fast, but the plot is well paced, and you don't feel hurried. You don't feel like it's hurried. Abe Dancer clearly knew what he was doing. I think this was he'd been writing. I think he wrote over 20 odd books under his own name. In fact, I'll just show you. There's a bit here which shows. So this is all of. As you can see, if I just hold this up, you can see they're all the ones that he wrote under Abe Dancer, and there's the other ones he wrote under the name Caleb Rand. This is quite common for authors who wrote for Black Horse Westerns, where they would write under their own name and also a plethora of other names. And you can very much tell that Abe Dancer sort of got his formula down, and he was writing to it, and it's enjoyable. That's, as I say, that's not in any way a criticism of it. It's he clearly knew what he was doing, and he did it well, and I enjoyed it. As I say, it's nothing great, but it never. It's one of the books that doesn't claim to be. It's just pretty much it's what it says. It's what it says on the tin. So you know exactly what you're getting. One interesting thing about this though is that on the description on the back here gives you more explanation of what's going on in the plot than you necessarily get in the book itself. I mean, if you read this and then you read the first chapter, you know exactly what's going on. However, if you didn't read this and just read the first chapter, you'd be a bit lost, which I found slightly odd, because I should say I haven't read other Black Horse westerns. Well, I've only read, I should say I've read one, and that's, which is actually the book I'm going to be reading next, which is Comanche Moon by Simon Webb. And in this, that isn't true. You get a blurb just giving you a basic idea of what the story's going to be about, but you don't get any great description. Yes, this really does. I mean, I do wonder. I do wonder if you took that off the back, if people would quite understand what was going on in the book. So I'll be interested to see if that's true of any more of these, because as this only took me pretty much a day to read, and I think it'll probably only take me a day to read Comanche Moon, which I've read before, so I'll probably read that faster. I'm going to start going around to my local library, which is pretty much 100 yards in that direction, and there's a shelf of these there, and so I'm going to sort of read my way through these during the course of June. Just to go into a bit of description about Black Horse, for those who don't know, as I say, they went on from the mid-30s up until 2000, from the mid-1930s up until 2020. They are, as I say, pulp westerns. If you're British, you've probably seen these when you've gone into your local library, because there's usually not just a shelf as there is in my local library, an entire bookcase full of them, and they're all like this sort of hardback, quite thin westerns, quite thin books, all westerns, and they all have sort of cover art like this. This cover art seems a bit how do I say it? It seems a bit unusual. The style is a bit unusual, because they usually, when you usually see them, the style of cover is more sort of defined, and it's more that kind. If you can see that clearly, where it's where it looks more like it's an actual sort of painted cover from a sort of paperback western you get, which this seems more. It doesn't seem the same, if you understand what I mean. Brilliant. As I say, I'll be reading that next, and then I'll be going around the library and getting more of them. It'll take me about a day to read each one. So that's what I'll be reading between my read along of Dune, which I'm doing throughout this month, and then also I will after I've read Comanche Moon, I'll be reading Louis L'Amour, Showdown at Yellow Butte or Butte. I'm not quite sure which it is. If you know, please leave a comment in the below, letting me know which way. So with that, Booktube, I'll say goodbye, and I will see you maybe tomorrow, or probably the day after.